Texas Tech won the Big 12 championship, and all they needed was for Baylor to gift wrap it for them.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
On behalf of Baylor football, you're welcome, Texas Tech. Because there's no Big 12 championship or college football playoff appearance without us, and us not taking advantage of what we already had. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Game Time, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day, the number one sports podcast network in the world. I'm your host, Cam Stuart of ESPN Central Texas and the Rogue Media Network. I appreciate you guys making it your first listen today and every day. We are talking about why Texas Tech should be thanking Baylor for this historic first ever Big 12 championship. And let's dig a little deeper. Why did Baylor decline a bowl game? And why do I, of all people, think that's actually a good thing? And Doug McNamee, the new athletic director for your Baylor Bears, was introduced yesterday. What did he have to say? And what's his biggest benefit? What is the biggest benefit of this pretty big risk? All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. We start where we start. Like, clap it up, man. Tech did it. No shade. Finally won the Big 12 championship. Hadn't won an outright conference title in 70 years, and they deserved it. That is a wagon of a team, and I really think they could make a run in the college football playoff, despite what everybody at the four letters is going to tell you. Texas Tech is that good, and they deserve to be a top 5 team in college football. They have earned that. This is unprecedented success for the Red Raiders. And all they needed was Baylor's help. They just needed Baylor to give them a little bit of a hand, or a giant hamburger helper kind of hand to get there. Because this has really taken off under Joey McGuire. And yes, with the help of Cody Campbell, but really with the roster and the coaching staff that Joey McGuire put together at Tech. That he and his constituents there helped them build a top 5 football team in America. And then you take a look at that Texas Tech coaching staff, and oh man, does it look familiar. Like, all the way down. Joey McGuire, Garrett McGuire, Justin Juice Johnson, the assistant head coach, Taylor Young, Cole Maxwell, Quentin Jordan, the director of football ops, Brian Nance, the director of player personnel, James Blanchard, the GM, that everyone was writing all those great things about in the summer, and for good reason. They all of them came from Baylor. Every single one of them. Tech's whole staff, basically, outside of offensive defensive coordinator, are all Baylor people that Joey was working with at Baylor. Like, it's just all the way up and down the list. The people literally running this program. You know, we talk about how great the recruiting is and how great they did in the portal. Like, that's all around. Joey McGuire, Quentin Jordan, Brian Nance, and James Blanchard. They're all Baylor guys, every single one of them. And so part of this is to throw some shade at Tech, right? Because it's kind of funny. But most of it is, if you don't laugh, you'll cry. Because here's Baylor at 5-7 and going absolutely in the wrong direction. And once Joey leaves this place and takes his Baylor guys with him, Tech becomes a powerhouse. And yeah, I am kind of like, as much as I do want to take away from Tech if I could, like, I hear all these people saying, oh, you know, they bought their team. It's like they weren't doing any winning before Joey got the money. It's like no one was doing winning in this era when you don't have the money. No one. They're not even in the top 10 of net spending. And it's they bought their team. No one says Ohio State bought their team. You know, no one says that Georgia does it. Nobody says that Alabama did it. It's just Tech that did it, right? Or maybe Joey put together one heck of a staff here, and it's year 4, and they've pretty much progressively gotten better each year. Like, that's how it's supposed to go. I know for us here at Baylor, we're seeing the opposite, but that is how it's supposed to go. And, I talk about the coaches that were pried by Joey McGuire, and a couple of these guys left with Joey when he was hired in the middle of 2021. I think they waited out the season, but a lot of the guys went there, but not everybody. Cole Maxwell and Taylor Young, those were Baylor players that never coached under Dave Aranda. They coached with Taylor Young for a year with Matt Rule and played for Matt Rule for 1 year. And then he's going off with Joey. Cole Maxwell, who had his best season at Baylor under Dave Aranda, goes off to coach with Joey. And meanwhile, you look at Baylor staff, not a lot of former Baylor players on that staff. In fact, there's about 1 or 2 that gets run out of town every year. So how is it that Joey is not only better at identifying coaches and building a staff, but he's better at identifying the people that were in your building that deserved a bigger chance, and then they thrive with the bigger chance? It's something that maybe I just haven't thought about too much because it's depressing. But Joey's doing it with Baylor guys. And the Baylor ship is sinking. Again, this is a lot to reiterate, although I know plenty of you know this by now. This is as good as Texas Tech has ever been for a single year. Like 2008 was fantastic. I watched that team actually quite a bit. They were fun to watch, and they were really good. They weren't this good. They weren't top 10 offensively and defensively like Tech was most of the year. And they certainly wouldn't have been playing in a college football playoff. In fact, they didn't even play in a conference championship game. And so to see AT&T Stadium on Saturday with even up against BYU was a massive alumni base. Tech had at least 70% of that stadium. 65,000 Red Raider fans in there, swag surfing and watching their team win the Big 12 championship. How can you not be jealous? You're not a Baylor fan if you just sit there and think, oh, that's nice. Like, good for them. But there has to be jealousy. All these Baylor people left under the Dave Aranda tenure, and they went to Joey McGuire because that's who they wanted to work for, and he gave them the shots that they needed, and they have absolutely ran with it. It's just another thing that stings, man. It's just another thing that stings after the end of this Baylor season that feels like we're already in a B trap with how many stings there are. But, yeah, of course, Garrett McGuire and Clay McGuire are going to work under Joey. But, Garrett, Baylor player. It's all Baylor guys. And meanwhile, Baylor and their staff is getting as far away from former Baylor players as they have been since I've been watching them. And wouldn't you know, it's going the wrong direction. Anyway, you're welcome, Texas Tech. You're welcome. I'm hoping that next time Baylor won't be so generous, even though we live by, the Christian creed and the great Christian spirit. I'm hoping that we're not so generous in helping other teams in the Big 12 win the conference championship. And it might happen in men's basketball as well with Texas Tech too. But, I'm okay with Scott Drew. I'm okay with that. Anyway, say you're welcome to a Texas Tech fan in the comment section below. Then like and subscribe. When we come back, we're going to talk about Baylor declining a bowl game and why that was actually a good thing. And it might surprise you that I'm coming with that, but I'll tell you why next on Locked On Baylor. But first, give the gift that keeps on giving this holiday season. And that is our friends over at Omaha Steaks. Yes, you know them, you love the taste Okay. But when it comes to the holiday season, you got two big goals: feeding people well and finding gifts they're actually going to love. And when you handle both in one move, I call that getting two birds stoned at once. Omaha Steaks is the way to go. From hosting to gifting, they deliver the world's best steak experience right to your door. With their Sizzle All the Way sale, you could stock up and save in a huge way. 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. And it gets even better. Locked On College listeners, that's you. Get an extra $35 off with the code COLLEGE at checkout. That is COLLEGE, all caps, college at checkout. I mean, what more could you ask for? I've gotten them as a gift. I've given them as a gift. It feels great all the way around, and it tastes even better. So save big on gourmet gifts and more holiday favorites with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for that 50% off site-wide during the Sizzle All the Way sale. And for that extra $35, again, use the promo code COLLEGE at checkout. Terms do apply. See site for details. That's Omaha Steaks, code COLLEGE. Bringing it back here on Locked On Baylor. Made big news on Sunday. The Baylor Bears declined the bowl invitation. While we were all there trolling Notre Dame for their view from their high horse, turning down a good bowl game because they didn't make the college football playoff, bam, there it is in your face. Baylor declines an opportunity as well. As I said yesterday, there's a big difference between those two things. You know, Notre Dame was continuing to practice. Their season wasn't over. They had not been disqualified from bowl eligibility. In fact, they were 10-2. They're a team that is on a 10-game winning streak. And they don't want to play another college football game because it's against BYU and something called the Pop-Tarts Bowl. That's weak, man. Like that's really weak. And I think that's bad for college football to just say, if we can't win the national championship, then we're not going to play anymore. Because I think, when does that stop teams in the future? You know, like after the Cincinnati loss on October 25th, does Baylor say, we're done. We're 4-4. We're not playing anymore. We can't win the national championship. We don't want these players to get hurt. Like, part of the deal is you play football games, okay? Part of it is that. And if you go 6-6 or better and you get invited to a bowl game, you go. You play. It's one last chance for your seniors and some of the people who aren't going to get a spot on the team next year. You know, I see that video of Will Muschamp, getting to see his walk-on son play in a college football game and, almost tearing up on the sideline because they played in a bowl game that didn't matter, quote unquote. But that situation is different from Baylor's. Okay, and UCF was another one that was asked, and Rutgers was asked to play in the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Southern. And Baylor said no. And it might surprise you, surprise some of my friends, surprise myself a little bit, but I actually agree with the decision. I think that's probably the way to go. Now, is it because I'm an absolute drama queen and I'm just going to get all kinds of bent out of shape if they lose a bowl game and go to 5-8? Yeah, probably. That's probably a subconscious part of it. But the other thing is too, is I get it, is I understand it. Like your players, some of them have already left. Some of these guys who are seniors or in their, grad year, they don't have finals. They're probably gone. And, some of these guys are playing in the Senior Bowl, AKA at least 3 of your best players are playing in the Senior Bowl. So they're probably opting out of that game because they've already said they're going to play the Senior Bowl. And I don't want to get into an opt-outs discussion because I don't like opt-outs either. That is something that I don't like in college football, but that's kind of the reality of it, is you were already being faced with that. And the other thing is, you're 5-7. You know what I mean? I'm not going to get into the whole you can only lose, because that probably is the case. But you could, 3 years ago against Air Force in your rival's home stadium, that was a lose-lose situation. But you do it because you qualified for a bowl game. And you're Fans can deserve that, and your players deserve that when you've earned the right. Going to a bowl as a 5-7 team after you hadn't practiced for a week and know you don't deserve to be there, that's a tough sell after a long and pretty brutal season. That is a really tough sell. You know, it's like Notre Dame, you're playing an 11-win team. So what if it's the Pop-Tarts Bowl? Like take the sponsorship out of it. You're a 10-win team playing against an 11-win team and a chance for a great football game and some great competition. 5-7 Baylor was going to play what? 6-6 or 7-5 Georgia Southern. And it's the same thing for UCF or Rutgers. That's just, you didn't earn that. And you know you didn't earn that. And I think that does play into this whole thing. I do. Now, Iowa State and Kansas State, two other Big 12 schools that are getting fined because they're turning down bowl opportunities that they earned. I hate that. You know, like what it basically comes down to is I don't like when you say we're not playing in a bowl game because we don't have a coach. You have a coaching staff. And by the way, you do have a coach. Both of those teams have coaches. Like, that's great. Have them get a head start on everything from like the players they have on the team right now. But it is a different story when you possibly don't have players. You know, and that's what Baylor's tasked with right now. They might not have players. Like, their starters, they're all over the place, man. Those seniors, like, they're all over the country at this point. So I don't love it in my bones. I don't. I really like bowl games. You know, and this was a big thing I was kind of championing last year when it was the Texas Bowl. It's like, I don't care, man. That's a bowl game against a good SEC opponent. Like, bring it on. That's awesome. That's part of my holiday routine, watching the bowl game. So overall, like, for the most part, do I want them to play in a bowl game? Yes. But what I'm telling you is I totally understand, and I'm not going to really push back on their decision to not go to one. And part of that, again, could be like dramatic embarrassment. But I get that. And I get, the needs of this team. They need to address the portal. They need to address their roster. And who knows? I don't think the athletic director is going to address the head coach, but they need to address everything going on in that room. And in a way, you have, quote unquote, earned the right to get a head start on that. With the 2 weeks of practice with a lot of these guys who are going to have to play a lot more snaps next year who haven't done it before. Would that have been great? Sure. Yep. But you got to make sure you've got the guys first. So as much as it sucks and it is lame and it goes against pretty much everything that I love about college football, I'm just shooting you straight. I'm just being honest with you guys. I get it. And I understand the decision, and I'm okay with the decision. Could have given me some more content, though. But I know this is divisive, so I am curious. Like, let me know, guys, in the comment section below if you're watching on YouTube, or tweeted us at Locked On Baylor. If you're listening wherever you get your podcasts as well, let me know what you think and why, because I get it. Like, I'm like 51-49 on this by going with, let's just not play a bowl. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, help us on the path towards 5,000. Man, we're getting close. 5,000 subscribers on YouTube means the world to me, and I know this team means the world to you. When we come back, let's meet the new athletic director a little bit, huh? Doug McNamee spoke to the media, spoke to the fans for the first time yesterday. What is the biggest benefit of Doug McNamee? And what is he looking to address first? Let's talk about it next on Locked On Baylor. But first, let's talk about our good friends over at Game Time. Man, did I have a good weekend this weekend. I got to go to 2 live college sporting events, and I bought my tickets while I was walking up to the arena both times because of Game Time. And then I see that in Arlington, not Dallas, even though that's what the stadium's going to be called, we're going to have some damn good soccer this summer when the World Cup is back. Game Time is clutch for that. It's finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. You track the price drops in real time. You get alerts when the great seats open, and you could buy the tickets the moment they hit the app or the moment you're walking up to the arena. It puts the power back in your hands, and it makes getting World Cup tickets realistic instead of impossible. You can pull up the app. Layout makes it so simple I can do it. You can scroll through the matchups, compare the seat views, see what's a great deal, a good deal, an amazing deal. That helps me out a lot. And those prices, they do include the fees up front, my favorite part. So no last second surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and listen everything, every match, every concert, every event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, download the app, make an account, code LOCKEDONCollege, all caps, all one word, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go with Game Time. Gonna take a swig real quick so I don't have to stop the clock. Thank you guys for always bearing with me. Let's talk Doug McNamee. Doug McNamee introduced yesterday, Monday, the 45th anniversary of John Lennon's death, as the new athletic director for the Baylor Bears. Bet you didn't think I was sneaking that in there in a Doug McNamee talk. But he talked to the media for the first time, and he laid out some things. Now, I saw a lot of people saying like, oh, man, yes, man, puppet. Like, he's just going to do everything Linda says. Like, dude, it's the introductory press conference. You know, he's not going to sit there and say, I'm canning Dave Aranda right now. So you guys throw me some suggestions for football coach. He's not doing that inside the Herd Welcome Center. Then again, the flip side of that is you don't hear anything interesting with these, right? With Matt Rule, you did, because he's kind of the used car salesman / preacher's kid. But you're not going to hear much of substance when it comes to any of these, right? But what I did find interesting was what Doug McNamee laid out as his 3 priorities here. And he said football, aka the portal, and getting the best team out there for 2026. He said in no particular order, so take that with a grain of salt. Earn the fans' trust, which I actually do like that. Not just because we're fans and the trust has been completely eroded, but because the AD doesn't have to go up there and say that the first time. You know, he doesn't. And it's very classic Baylor to pretend like there's no trust issue. You know, to pretend that there's no rift between the athletic department and the fan base, or specifically the football program and the fan base, and now the administration and the fan base. Like that is so, like, that's classic Baylor of like, oh, that's nothing wrong. Baylor's such a great school. It's unique. It's one of one. We have the best fans. It's loving community. Like, they are so used to doing that. And so it is kind of refreshing in a way to hear this lifelong Baylor guy, for better or for worse, say that right off the bat. We got to earn some trust back. And the third thing was revenue. And now he didn't say that he would sell alcohol at the game. Someone did ask that. He kind of poo-pooed that a little bit. Said it was not his call. But he said, we're not going to leave any stone unturned when it comes to revenue. That is a massive revenue boost, selling alcohol at games. Like, you want to put a better football team on the field? Selling alcohol. There you go. I know a lot of people don't like it. I don't really get why. But that, if nothing else, is a major revenue boost. So those were the 3 things. These 3 things. He outlined them there in this holiday season. And when I look at, obviously, Doug McNamee's resume, clearly the big thing is revenue and fundraising and generating revenue, because everyone around Baylor who worked around him before mentions that. He's a great businessman. He did great with the season ticket sales. when they moved to McLean. That's a tough sell. Top 5 football team in a beautiful new stadium. But I digress. That he was dynamite at that. And again, as I said on Sunday's episode, was like, yeah, he is good at that. I do believe he's good at that. But doesn't mean you need to be the athletic director. That means you could head the fundraising and the giving and all that. Doesn't mean you need to be the athletic director. So clearly, that was kind of the bold strategy that Linda Livingstone and Baylor and the Regents took, of like, today's college football is all about who's got the most money, and we're never going to have the most money, but this guy can maximize our revenue in ways that we couldn't before. And the problem that I have with it, I went over some of the other problems, that he hasn't been a Power 4 AD before. He had only worked at Baylor and the private sector. Like, there's no contacts out there like most athletic directors would have. That's a problem. That is an issue. This is not really the time that Baylor, I think, should be getting experimental, but I do understand where they're coming from. Another thing with his introductory press conference, he's gonna get a mean streak in him. Everyone who was asking questions was his friend. Give an extra "Hey Matt" to Matt Mosley. Just hey Matt. He was appreciating watching Gary Baxter play. The Baylor Hall of Famer. It's like, man, get a little mean streak in you, because it's not always going to be rosy. Trust me, it's not. And the other thing that kind of bugs me is the people who say like Baylor needed to take a bold chance here. And now all we're hearing is, home run higher. I think Scott Drew said it was a grand slam dunk. Like, I'm giving the guy a chance, but let's not kid ourselves here. This is not a slam dunk. Not by any stretch. This is a 30-foot three with 12 seconds left on the shot clock. It's not a slam dunk. You could have gotten a better shot if you just waited a little bit or ran a play, worked for a good shot. Instead, they said, let's bring in this Baylor guy through and through, because things are going so well for Baylor. We just need more Baylor people right now. Again, that's just not really what you do in the real world. When things are going the opposite direction, you don't try to bring in more of the same. It seems a little desperate. I think from what he's told us here, these 3 things, that's priorities are in the right place. And I think he probably does have the priorities in the right place. I think he's good at fundraising, and I think he really deeply cares about Baylor. Right? But I'm wondering if we're looking at a job that's just too big. And look, again, giving him a chance. This is day 1. But you want to know my concern? That's my concern. And it's probably because, again, take it back to where we take every segment back to. You need not look any further than Dave Aranda. I was saying this to my fiance the other night. She's like, do you hate Dave Aranda? I was like, I actually don't. I don't. He seems like a genuinely good guy. And I do think he cares. So I don't hate him. But I hate where this football team is right now because of him. And it seems like a coach who was just in over his head. And now my chief concern on day 1, because you have a football coach who's in over his head, is that you might have an AD who's in over his head. And I think when you look at the resume, that's not that crazy a concern to have. Mack Rhodes was not in over his head. Made some bad decisions, but he wasn't in over his head. He had done that job before very well. So, anyway, that's what I was hearing and seeing from Doug McNamee. If Baylor's right about this and you just get a fundraising wizard and your problems will be solved, then happy to eat that crow, man. Happy to eat that crow. But it's a major gamble when you didn't need one. But let me know what you think in the comments section below. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps me out, and I really appreciate you guys for making it your first listen today and every day. Like, truly, this community has been fantastic, especially, I would say, especially because I feel it more in the worst of times, which is what we have all been going through the last couple of weeks and months here. So appreciate you guys for keeping up with the show every day and making it the #1 Baylor football show on YouTube, part of the #1 sports podcast network in the world. Thanks again, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode of your favorite show, which is, of course, Locked On Baylor.